Today, there's a serious question about whether the White House is looking to control how history records President Trump's time in office. According to the Washington Post, the administration is embracing a Justice Department memo that deems the presidential records law unconstitutional, loosening the rules on how to preserve official documents. Watchdog groups and historians are challenging the memo in court, worried that it sets the stage for rewriting history. Joining me now, Patrick Eddington, Senior Fellow at Homeland Security and Civil Liberties at the Cato Institute. It's good to have you here. Walk us through both how White House staff should preserve records versus what it seems the White House would like to see.
Well, Chris, it's good to be with you again. It's really interesting that we're talking about this because when I was doing research for my most recent book, one of my stops was at the Library of Congress. And when I got to President Coolidge, they said, hey, we wish we could help you, but he burned all of his papers. So in terms of trying to reconstruct, what happened with domestic surveillance and political repression during the Coolidge years, I had to go and look at everything else that was out there, FBI, DOJ records, all the rest of that stuff. So that's like the most benign interpretation that I bring to this, is that it really does open up the real prospect that not just Mr. Trump, but anybody who would follow him, assuming that this particular Office of Legal Counsel memo is upheld, would be able to turn around and take their papers with them or destroy them or, do whatever. And as an employee of the American people, which is really what the president is, I certainly don't believe that he'll be able to do that.
So the Presidential Records Act was passed after Watergate, right, to make clear that White House records belong to the public, not to the president, that they are part of history. So what's at stake if that principle is weakened?
You have the near term, which is what I worry about. And I wrote about this recently in terms of, how you could have Trump essentially issue some directives that would flow out of the White House to DOJ, DHS, the rest of these for voter suppression related operations, and then basically destroy those records on the backside to make it next to impossible to certainly prosecute anybody who is actually working for Trump in the White House. So that's like the short to medium term version of this. But the long term version is giving any president the ability to hang on to or otherwise, destroy their records will literally make it possible for a given administration to try to, as you use the words, rewrite history. And I'm a member of the American Organization of Historians. I've been a member of the American Historical Association in the past. And I'm certainly grateful that they and American Oversight are leading this particular lawsuit because I do think it's extremely important. But I also think it's critical for folks to understand that this Office of Legal Counsel opinion is going to be viewed as binding on the executive branch. And anybody who essentially takes an action to destroy a record and claims I was acting under orders from the Office of Legal Counsel, they're probably going to have a good shot at being able to escape prosecution because of past precedents on this particular kind of issue.
Could it also, it sounds like, make possible that things will, for lack of a better word, just disappear and you won't even know what we've missed?
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, too. If you have a president issue essentially a directive to the National Security Council staff to go and have the Central Intelligence Agency, my former employer, the National Security Agency, the FBI, engage in some particular activity, and then make it clear in follow-up guidance that any reference to White House originated material also turns those records at those agencies essentially into presidential property, that would potentially be a stretch under what Elliot Geiser wrote in his opinion. But I think certainly this regime, this administration would certainly try to push the envelope on that. So there's just a lot of reason essentially to be opposed to this. And it is interesting that every president to follow Richard Nixon has abided by the statute. It was signed into law by a sitting president, and no other president up to this point in time has challenged it.
Yeah, there's a difference between your own autobiography and history and facts. Patrick Eddington, thank you so much. You've helped us to understand a lot of stuff. Have a great weekend.
You too. My pleasure.